with illustrator Jamie Peck, who is also works here at the library teaching our computer classes, and a former art teacher also. And this is the first time Jamie has done a book, so the process of how they work together will be interesting. So thank you for coming, and they have the floor. Can I? Thank you.
Hi there, I am Mastin. I'm one of the local authors around here. I've dabbled in just about every type of genre of writing there is, but I've probably been known best for the Carthage Chronicles mystery series that I've written. Now, my first book, Don't Pay the Ferryman, was released in the summer of 2003. And since then, I have written a total of 6 books, and working on a 7th one as it is. Now, in my series, I have, like I said, Don't Pay the Ferryman. The sequel, which came out 2 years later, was Don't Fear the Reaper. And the one that came out in 2007 was The Revenge of the Reaper. Eventually, I'd like to write a part 4 to the series. But over the course of the years, I've also been dabbling in other things, trying to branch out so that I'm not known strictly as a mystery writer or someone that's in horror or something like that. So over the past few years, I've also done a couple books that have to deal with poetry and short stories. The book right here is Weathering the Storm, Journey of My Life Part 1. And then the one that I did 2 years after that was called Battling the Storm, Journey of My Life Part 2. Now I am working on a 3rd book in this series as well. But to move aside from that, I've also been a stay-at-home dad for past, well, my kids were young. Now I also work in a daycare setting whenever they need me. But I used to work at the Champion Mill, and I worked there for several years. And when that mill closed down, and my wife here owns her own business, it was more economical for one of us to stay there with the kids. So this is my tale of what it was like to go from working in a paper mill, doing blue-collar work, and using language that you probably shouldn't use around kids, to learning how to care for a child, change diapers, and read children's books. Which kind of brings me to where I'm at today. The newest story that I'm working on is a children's book, and it's called Oscar Potter and His Late Night Visitor. And I'm kind of a little out of my element here. I've never really done a children's book before. I've read thousands of them over the past 10 years, but I haven't written one yet. So it's been a long process, and when I write a book, I like to put all my ideas right out in front of me. That way I can just get a clear picture of where the story is, where I want it to go, and how I want to change things. Since I don't have a large chalkboard at my house, what I use is a great big piece of paper such as this. And you can see, I didn't bring the one for my Oscar Potter book. This one is the one that I found for my Revenge of the Reaper book. And you can see is what I use is kind of like a map. And what it does is it kind of lays out here certain chapters and what the events that I want to happen in each particular chapter. And for me, this works best because when I have everything out in front of me, I can cross things off. Of course, the bigger the paper, the better it is. You get more stuff on there. And it has helped me quite a bit. Now, the book that I'm working on right now, it still has to be edited down quite a bit. But I have Hope Marston who's going to take a look at it for me here, and she's written many children's books in her career, so I appreciate her advice and all the help she can give. And as far as illustrations go, it's a funny story how this all came about. I've been working with Jamie for the past several months now, but the journey of how I came to get to know her actually took place probably over a year ago. See, last summer I was building a fire pit in my house, and I was using big, heavy, solid cement blocks. And what happened was I ended up getting tendonitis in my arms. So the doctor recommended that I get some therapy. So I went to physical therapy, and I've been going there for quite a while. And then one day, I go into physical therapy, and the person who was doing my physical therapy was not there. She was pregnant, so I guess she wasn't feeling well that particular day. And so I ended up working with this guy named Nathan. We got to talking about my writing and the different projects that I've done over the course of the years. And then I told him about the new book that I was working on. And I told him how hard it was for me to come and find, an illustrator, somebody that whose style was more what I had in mind. So Nate told me, he goes, well, I have this friend who can draw. And I said, okay. And so we're talking and talking. And then at the end of the therapy session, he goes, would you like her information? And I said, sure. And so I went home that night, and I found her on Facebook. And then I wrote her a little note there, kind of explaining that I got her information from Nate. And even though we hadn't met face-to-face, over the past several months that we've been working, I mean, we're talking early summer or late spring, that's all we've done. We've been going back and forth, talking about ideas. I sent her a copy of a rough draft of the manuscript for her to look at. And through it all, she was able to develop illustrations that fit the pages in the story that I wanted to do. And what I liked about it was that I had a certain style in mind. One of my favorite books that I read to my kids was called Petey and the Mean Pirates. And I just liked the way that that was drawn and the color scheme that they had. So when I saw Jamie's website and I saw the style that she did, it was exactly the way that this book was, or very, very close, very similar. And so that's when I contacted her, and since then, we've been going back and forth.
It's been quite an adventure. Like, this is our second time meeting, like, person to person.
That's only our second time.
So it's been really exciting because, as Linda said at the beginning, I teach computer classes here, as well as I just started up another fine arts program here. I teach classes on the importance of social networking and how it can jumpstart people's businesses and such. So this is like perfect, perfect illustration for that. So I think it's really neat how it just tied in so perfectly, and it's been a lot of fun. It's been definitely a really unique professional relationship. So.
It has. I mean, she's been able to almost read my mind. Because I haven't asked you really to change anything.
I know.
She's
it's been
kind of,
helpful.
I know. She kind of caught the concept right away. I mean, I had an idea in my mind of what I thought Oscar should look like. And when she drew it, I mean, I told her right away that this is exactly what I had in mind. And she got that from basically a rough draft of a manuscript and just emailing back and forth.
And just to, I guess, illustrate it a little more how I worked on my drawings is I would produce sketches like this, and I'm pretty sure, did I email you like these types of sketches first without color?
First.
And I always wanted to check in with him to make sure it was on the same, I guess, he was thinking on the same page as I was. And fortunately, it worked out almost every time that it was, so I was really excited about that. And I sent these images here today to just show you a little bit about my process. I do a lot of, like Marcus, I didn't read a lot of children's books to get ideas. I looked at a lot of pictures, obviously. I read his manuscript over and over, and I looked at a bunch of children's books that had those types of figures in them. Older people and things, just to get some ideas. And I just started sketching, and then I would send emails with the pictures of them to him, and he said, it looks great, and then I would add the color, and then I would scan them in, and just as an example of the cover, I used a graphic design software program just to play around with the text, and I know it's been wonderful working like this. I don't know.
It's been a great experience so far. And hopefully I can have this book out, or a version of it, by the holiday season this year. What I'd like to do is put out a version myself through a self-publishing process. At the same time, I'd like to shop it around to various children's books, publishing companies, and traditional Christian kind, because it does have a Christian theme to it, I believe. But I read a story about this gentleman who had this book that he self-published, and it was becoming very popular to the point where traditional publishing companies were picking up on it, and he actually sold the book to one. And that was very encouraging, especially for someone like me, who's done 3 different types of publishing process. I've done print on demand, I've done a small traditional publishing process, and now I'm also doing a self-publishing. So what I hope to do is based on the story, if it's good enough, the illustrations that are great. If the story is successful and it has a good trial run, that hopefully one of these children's traditional publishing companies will pick up on the story and like to purchase it from you. Is there any questions at all for us?
Why Oscar Potter? I mean, with Harry Potter being so popular, don't you fear that maybe people will be thinking that you're trying to think about
You know, actually I hadn't picked up on that until Mr. Rock brought that up here today. One of my favorite stories growing up was called The Selfish Giant. Another one was called The Picture of Dorian Gray. Both of those stories were written by an author called Oscar Wilde. So because he was one of my favorite authors, I used that as the first name of Oscar. And I kept thinking of different last names that would go with that. Obviously I couldn't use Wilde, but Oscar Potter, so I was like, oh, that seems to fit. And basically that's how I did the name.
How did you think of other characters' names in the books?
Like the children's names in there, right now I'm using Julian and Jacob, and that just happens to be my brother's kids' names. I've already used my kids' names for another story.
I have a question.
Yes?
Publishing.
Yes.
Well, maybe some of the authors here can help me. Where can I go to get the publishing at a low rate?
At a low rate?
Impossible.
No, I've never actually paid a company to take my stuff and then print it out. I have an account through the Amazon company, and Amazon is one of the biggest, online bookstores there is. And what I have is a storefront through them, in which I was able to see. I didn't actually own the rights to several of my books for several years. When I went through Publish America and Prairie View Publishing, they owned the rights. I had to sign a contract with them. And one of those companies actually owned the rights to my books for 7 years. And I had a bad experience with them. So when I finally, of course, this was, like I said, 2003, I wrote them a letter and they switched my contract down to 5 years. So when I got the rights back, the rights reverted back to me here 3 years ago. That's when I decided to put out my own versions of these books. Because I'd learned a lot about the publishing process when I was going through Prairie View Publishing. Now, they were a small, traditional publishing company, and who put out like a dozen or so titles a year. Now, what happened was that financially, their company was going under. And at the time, they thought maybe I would be interested in buying the company from them. Why? I have no idea. But so they were teaching me how to create PDF files for the manuscripts, how to design a cover. So I was absorbing all this information. And then when they finally did go under and the rights to the books reverted back to me, I decided to keep it myself.
Another comment. You're fiction, right?
Yes.
And Lynn's doing historical stuff. That's fact. It's a matter of gathering things. I'm doing an autobiography and I found this out. You got to be truthful, but then it might turn around and bite you. Because I've been married 4 times. And what I said about my first 3 wives, I don't want my 4th wife to see over my dead body. So I've got it on flashcard tapes. My daughter's keeping, and in case one of my wives kill me, I can over it. But it's very hard to put stuff down and then print it.
Yes. Well, I have several characters that were based on people that I knew, and just to cover my own butt in case they ever came back to try and sue me or something similar to that. I had a lawyer friend come up with a release form, and it just basically said that I'm able to use their likeness or a variation of their name or something, and I would just take it to them and I had them sign it, and I keep every original copy in a folder.
Thanks. Won't take up any more time.
No, please do.
What's that?
Okay. Is there anything else? Any other questions, comments, suggestions?
Now, going to children's book, this is going to be a new arena for you to find how to market it, right?
Yes, but like I said, Hope Marston has been very helpful to me. I mean, she's provided me with emails based on notes to look at, books, several books to read, like the Children's Market book there. It's been very helpful, and that's good because each publishing company has their own criteria. Some of them want basically just mysteries, or some of them want just books written by just women, or just Christian titles or something similar to that. So you really got to put a lot of research in there to figure out what it is they want. Does your story fit their criteria, and then contact them. Now, like I said, some of them want only books that are for the younger students. Now, I have actually bought that book there at the Children's Market, and I've highlighted several of the ones that I want to send the manuscript to, based on all the research that I've done. Okay. Is there anything you want to add?
Good.
All right. She's going to be talking about her part in